Today we'll explore how South African President Cyril Ramaphosa's recent words of encouragement for Zimbabwe's agricultural recovery sparked widespread anger back home, especially because many felt he chose silence on another urgent issue, the flow of migrants into South Africa. We will walk through the history that helps us understand why his remarks hit such a nerve, then look closely at the responses, the deeper realities behind migration, what it all means for regional relations and politics, and where all of this might lead. So let's take this step by step in a gentle, unfolding conversation, without rushing, and always moving clearly from one thought to the next. First, let's go back in time. Southern Africa's story of migration and agriculture stretches back decades. Zimbabwe was once known as the breadbasket of the region, with a strong agricultural base that fed not just its own people, but also neighboring countries. South Africa, over time, became a place where many Zimbabweans looked for work and better living conditions, especially after Zimbabwe's economy began to falter. Political instability, economic collapse, and drought pushed people to leave. We saw large numbers of Zimbabweans move to South Africa, some legally, others more informally, seeking jobs, healthcare, and schools. Those movements shaped communities, overwhelmed services, and created tensions that ripple to this day. For many South Africans, this constant stream of people has become part of everyday life, shaping towns while also creating debates about fairness and responsibility. It is against that history that Ramaphosa's recent comments landed. Just days ago, he praised Zimbabwe for making great strides in reviving its agriculture, saying the country is managing to feed more of its people and regain food independence. He offered that praise as a sign of hope, a diplomatic gesture to encourage Zimbabwe's leaders and people as they rebuild. That in itself can seem reasonable. Constructive words between neighbors can help build cooperation. Yet many in South Africa reacted sharply. They wanted their president to confront migration directly. Hundreds of thousands of Zimbabweans still cross the border each year. Ramaphosa's focus on agriculture, without addressing migration, felt tone-deaf to many. We heard analysts saying, we expected him to deal with mass migration, pointing out that ordinary South Africans want clarity and solutions. Years of migration have strained healthcare, crowded schools, fueled job competition, and sometimes ignited xenophobic fears. While praising Zimbabwe's agricultural progress is not wrong, critics say ignoring migration issues gives the impression of caring more about diplomacy than citizen struggles. Let's also think about Ramaphosa's responsibilities. As leader of South Africa, he must balance friendly diplomacy with Zimbabwe, because a stable Zimbabwe is good for the region, with domestic expectations to manage migration fairly. If he leans too much into border control, he risks worsening relations with Harare and hardships for refugees. But if he doesn't address migration, he risks alienating his own citizens who face overloaded services. The reaction to his remarks reveals just how tight that path is, how easily words about agriculture can be seen as ignoring human struggles. His political opponents will not hesitate to use such moments as evidence of weak or disconnected leadership. Let's not forget, Zimbabwe's rebuilding of agriculture matters. If the country can feed itself, maybe migration will slow. But agriculture revival alone cannot solve deeper problems. Things like poverty, governance, and lack of jobs remain urgent. People still leave even if farms are productive, when communities lack stability or opportunity. Until those are resolved, migration may continue as a defining issue. The revival of fields and crops is important, but it does not automatically bring back lost industries or create the kinds of opportunities that keep young people at home. Meanwhile, in South Africa, frustration has been building for years. Citizens see neighbors arriving, schools bursting, clinics overwhelmed, and they wonder if their government stands with them or with diplomatic progress abroad. Those tensions, when ignored, can grow into resentment or even outbreaks of hate. That is dangerous and must be addressed with clear policies, open dialogue, and empathy for all, including migrants and host communities. Local leaders often find themselves trying to balance limited budgets while answering angry voices, and that reality cannot be ignored by national figures. What might happen next? Perhaps Ramaphosa will follow up with a speech or policy announcement that acknowledges migration and outlines compassionate, practical steps, investing in job creation, managing flows, improving border processes, and supporting both South Africans and newcomers. Perhaps regional leaders will convene a dialogue focused on joint solutions, supporting Zimbabwe's rebuilding while backing refugee assistance, training, and cross-border trade. Maybe civil society groups will rise up, offering integration programs to reduce hate and build understanding. For the future, the path may lie in collaboration, not blame. Imagine a future where Zimbabwe's farms are vibrant, offering employment and stability. At the same time, imagine South Africa with clear migration frameworks that allow safe entry, fair job access, and integration programs. If that vision can be shared, then today's criticism becomes a pivot toward prosperity rather than just a political flare-up. But if migration continues unresolved, tensions may deepen, populist movements may grow, and trust between neighbors may fray. That is why how leaders speak and what they choose to highlight or ignore matters so much. Words carry weight, shaping not only policies but also how people feel about their place in society. So, as we watch how this unfolds, we can see this episode, Ramaphosa's praise of agriculture and silence on migration, as more than a misplaced comment. It is a mirror of the balancing act at the heart of diplomacy, leadership, and human concern. It reminds us that when leaders speak, they signal priorities, and those signals can comfort or upset, depending on what people hear. And it reminds us that migration is not just a border issue. It is a human issue, tied to food, economics, history, hope, and fear, woven together across borders. The lives of South Africans and Zimbabweans are interconnected, and the decisions of leaders on both sides affect millions of ordinary people. As I close this reflection, I invite you to think, what do you feel when you hear praise for progress without mention of human suffering? How do you see Zimbabwe's recovery fitting in with migration trends? What would feel balanced or fair to you in the way leaders talk or act? Please share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your perspective and what you think should happen next.